What's up, everyone? Saturday, February 18th. We are less than a month from Selection Sunday. Pretty big slate here. We've got a 222 with 10K to first, which is cool to see. Prize pool's expanding a bit. There's a mini max, I believe. So lots of news to sift through as well. Lots of game time decisions due to illness. I'm battling a fever myself, but here we go. Gavin's back up bright and early for us. I think he's feeling a bit better than me. How's your Saturday so far, Gav?
Yeah, it's going all right. It's gonna be fast. There's 140 something games, and this is the slate when we always play NBA DFS once a year on MLK when there's no college basketball. This is the slate that we expect to be returned in kind. The money that we punt off on that slate. So welcome to all the people done with NFL and on NBA All-Star break, right?
Yeah, NBA on the All-Star break. Seeing some new faces in the lobby, which is cool. Hopefully continue to see that as we roll on into March. We've got 12 games on the slate, so let's just dive right in, starting with a big one, Illinois at Indiana. Illinois 24th at Ken Palm, Indiana 20th. Ken Palm's got it 75-71 Indiana. The big news here is Terry Shannon did not make the trip, which is obviously massive. He's their minutes leader. He's their usage leader. How do you think that impacts this game overall, Gavin? And then how does it impact you for DFS?
Yeah, well, it's impacted it because the total's gone down 3 points to 142, and the spread has gone up, I think, 1.5 points for Indiana, rightfully so. He's the only power conference player in the country, I think, who's averaging 10-5, 3, and a steal, 17, 5, 3, and a steal. So, it's a massive, massive impact for Illinois, a team that was already kind of without, a true point guard. Epps really is not a facilitating type point guard. He's a little bit more of a score first guy, but you also got Indiana kind of on a tricky spot, right? I mean, their run the last 5 games, they got run out pillar to post up Maryland. They have the all-in effort win against Purdue. Then they play a physical Rutgers game close, wire to wire the entire way, win against Michigan when they had no business winning. Then have the all-in crazy second half comeback against Northwestern and fall short. So, team's already a little short-handed. What's left in their gas tank? That being said, they're 6-1 ATS in conference home games. So, obviously good spot for Indiana. For DFS, I think it's going to bring some of these, obviously the guards of Illinois, when you abandon 20% of the team's shots the entire season without Terry Shannon, we're definitely going to have to look at some of these guards, I think, first and foremost.
Yeah, I think that's a big decision point of the slate. We've got 3 guards at 4,500 or less. Actually, Rogers a forward on DK. I think Rogers and Sincere Harris.
Dual. Him and Mayer are dual position.
Oh, really? Okay, good. I think Rogers and Harris will both be, low 20s, mid 20s minutes. I think Epps is obviously safest just because he's the one that was already playing. And he's kind of become more assertive shooting the ball. Gavin, he's got a 15% shot rate on the year, but 21% last 3 games. So we could be seeing Epps starting to get more comfortable. It is a tough road spot though. And then up top we have Matt Mayer at 7-8. Never a comfortable click, right? But without TJ Shannon in there, I think he's going to have to carry the usage. Obviously, it's a tough spot, but their team total is still over 70. Gav, what do you think about Matt Mayer in this spot on the slate? That and we'll talk about it. A lot of the spends seem like they're a bit overpriced. So him under 8K without Shannon, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 15 to 20 shot upside in this spot. I mean, he can get there with steals and blocks for sure. His ceiling outcome is 20-point double with some more ancillary stuff. So I think he's definitely in play. I'd say, yeah, he's definitely the best spend up on the team, especially you can slot him into guard. I think that's, extremely helpful. So yeah, I think main lineup consideration, I think I'll probably have him on a couple of my alternative lineups, but Yeah, we'll see if he makes it on main. I think he's a good play regardless.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure if you can hear. So it was basically silent outside the entire morning, and now people are like drag racing down the street. So awesome timing on that. Let's go to the Indiana side. TJD sitting at 11.5, 39, 40, and 39 minutes last three, Gavin. And when you add his just overall usage and how he contributes to all categories to that level of minutes, the floor ceiling combination is just out of this world. I think there's enough value on the slate to comfortably play him. Do you have a lean yet on if you're going TJD or not?
Yeah, I'll be playing him with all this value. Like, I don't think it's going to be a mega high scoring slate. Like, so I think you're going to, with all the value available, I think you just play him and don't really think about it. I mean, dude, he fried Illinois last time. 15 and 19 from the field, 35, 9, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. Like, and that was in Champaign, right? They had 21 post-up possessions for Indiana that game, and they just butchered Dane Danger in the post defensively. Like, so going kind of one more thing about Dane Danger. Like, yeah, he played 31 minutes in that first matchup, but I can't imagine Illinois takes the same game plan going into this game as well, right? Underscreening everything on Hood Schifino and never doubling TJD once. Like, I can't imagine Underwood does that again, especially now when they're shorthanded offensively. So,
yeah, didn't Underwood catch a lot of shit for that too?
Yeah, big time.
For that approach?
Yeah, he definitely did. Like, Illinois, third highest drop rate coverage in the country. So, that's part of the defensive memo, but you can't really do that against Hood Schifino. I mean, he's probably the best drop coverage point guard in the conference. Even better in Pickett and many facets in that.
Yeah. What about the rest of Indiana? They do have a team total up over 75. Would you consider playing a Race Thompson at 5'4", a Trey Galloway at 4'2", or I think my favorite secondary play on Indiana, Hood Schifino at 6'6", who had a really good game against Illinois last time. The shot rate is creeping up. The minutes are really good. And his price has come down to 6'6" there.
Yeah, and if we're talking about he's going to be getting, drop coverage in the pick and roll, like he should be getting some decent volume from three. So I think, excuse me, he's probably the second best play on the slate, but on that team. And then I would probably just go to Trey Galloway if I don't play TJD, if I don't play Hood Schifino. I think Galloway's fine. I think Galloway's fine with TJD.
Yeah,
probably
Galloway's just a play. You're getting 30 plus minutes as an attachment to a good team total. Let's move on. Second game on the slate. Real barn burner here. Rutgers at Wisconsin. Ken Palm's got a Rutgers 60-59. I don't have any DFS plays here. Do you have any bets, or should we just move on?
Nope.
Don't watch this one. Seton Hall, UConn. Big news game here. Seton Hall 60th at Ken Palm. UConn 5th. He's got it UConn 73-62. I think the line's hovering, between 10 and 10.5. But the big news is that Adamas Sanogo has not been practicing this week due to an illness. Rothstein tweeted this morning that he's a game time decision. I'll be monitoring tweets and news while we're live here. Why don't you talk about how he impacts this game if he's in or out?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important for UConn to have him, not just because obviously he's one of the better players in the conference, but Seton Hall is a team that they're so inept shooting wise, like they have to live on the extras. So offensive boards, they have to get to the rim absolutely, just because they can't shoot. They have to turn you over. So yeah, like not having Sanogo if he's out, puts a lot more stress on Klingon not to pick up fouls, because Seton Hall can have much more success, I think, if they get Klingon in foul trouble and there's no Sanogo to back them up. I think having both of them in there, you can just play the foul game. If one is fouling and the other isn't, just leave the other one in. But they're both pretty elite rim protectors in their own right. So yeah, not having them is going to be tough. But dude, remember this game? This was the one that UConn led 40-26 at half. At Seton Hall, and then Seton Hall crawls all the way back, and Defo hits the game-winning layup with 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
UConn also didn't have Dan Hurley this game. Is that worth anything to the line, quantifiably speaking? I don't know. I don't think Dan Hurley's that great of a coach. He's fine, but it is an interesting spot for them right here.
Yeah, so with Sonogo battling the illness, I probably don't have any interest at 9K if he plays. But if he's out, Klingon should start at 5.8. I think he's really interesting. Just the ceiling that he carries if he doesn't foul in a game like this. We've seen his per minute rates are just off the charts. Would you have Klingon as a priority play if Sonogo has to miss this game? And then second question, Andre Jackson, look at his price, 4.9. Man, just falling off a cliff. He was over 7K on the 18th of January, so a month ago. The minutes in production are all over the place, but man, the ceiling that we know that he has in there at a 4.9 price tag is pretty appealing. What do you think?
Yeah, Klingon is probably priority. If Snow goes out, it's kind of scary to think about if he was unleashed for like 32, 33 minutes in this spot, what he could do. I don't think he would even play that much, even if Snogo was out. But yeah, I still think he's definitely bordering on priority, if not actual priority. And then Andre Jackson, man, I don't know. What do we do with he's got to hit shots to return value most of the time, but now it's down to 4.9. Where I think we even said last slate he could pay off value scoring 0 points, but
yeah,
without Sonogo, does he pick up some of the rebounding slack? Maybe. Seton Hall should provide plenty of opportunities for live ball turnovers the way they punt it away. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. He's in the pool for me, but it's not really inspiring, frankly.
Yeah, I was just pulling up his box score for when they played last time. Jackson had 5 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Played 31 minutes, so that is easily paying off that tag.
He should play a lot, getting the Kadari assignment. So.
Yeah,
I expect him to get 30 here.
His minutes have been pretty up and down lately. I think that's just foul driven. Yeah, he's got 5 fouls, 4 fouls in his last 3 games. I think if he doesn't foul, he plays 28 to 32, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, I have a bunch of interest in Jackson, especially in the qualifier. Something where you need a big ceiling performance from a cheaper guy. Any last thoughts on this game here before we move on? We didn't talk about any Seton Hall guys, but I don't really think any are in play.
Oh, God.
Maybe Femi at 4.8, but like we talked about earlier, the prices for the studs are just too high. Kadari's 9K, Tyrese Samuel's over 7K, and Defo and Dawes are 7K. I just don't have any interest at UConn.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know if you see Dre Davis come back, maybe take a stab on him in the mini max or a really large field, but yeah, Femi, the way that UConn runs guys off the line, I don't think I'm going to have him in the player pool.
Yeah. Speaking of the mini max, we got a question in chat. Please tell me Gavin is running 150 train in the mini max again today.
You know it.
Did you register?
Yep.
I think we had another question. M Money asked, where does Gavin get your advanced stats from, like drop coverage, rate, stuff like that?
Shot quality, synergy are the 2 main ones for stuff like that.
Sites like that. Let's go to the next game, ACC tilt. Our next couple are ACC. Boston College at Florida State. They included a true barn burner for us here. BC 194th at KenPom, Florida State 204. He's got this line, FSU 73-70. We've seen Florida State games be kind of vital to get right in the last couple slates that they've been on for DFS. What are your overall thoughts on this game here? The big news is Matt Cleveland, questionable. I think it was back spasms. Missed the game the other day. And then DeMar Langford, also questionable. He's allowed some of the cheaper BC guys to play, and I think play pretty well. What do you think overall?
Yeah, it's like, Florida State's not going to play shit for defense really, like, and then they just get absolutely drubbed by Clemson without Cleveland. Their next 3 games after this are at Miami versus UNC and at Virginia Tech to close the year. So it's like this might be their last shot to get a friggin' win for the entire year. Like Boston College, they're going to play a little bit better defense in terms of like it's going to be a more physically imposing defense, but it's still not a great defense in their own right. So yeah, I mean, Florida State is 5-3 ATS in the conference, so I think they came in a little undervalued just with some of the ways that they were getting crushed in the non-con, like to Nebraska or something like that. But BC's off 2 straight losses themselves, so. Yeah, it's kind of a tough spot. It's like the blind school versus the deaf school, but still could be a pretty good, decent game environment for DFS.
Yeah, I think there are a bunch of good plays from this game, starting with Quentin Post. We've liked him, I feel like, on the last couple Saturday slates. He's had a few like foul games and blowout games in their last couple. This one doesn't project to be a blowout. So if he doesn't foul here, he's one of my favorite spends, sitting at 8.5. We've seen him have, 40-plus ceiling. And like you were talking about, Florida State's defense is not great. We don't see Boston College with a team total up above 70 too often. And then also on the BC side, Jaden Zachary, back to full health now, played 37 minutes last game. He was in the low 6Ks before he got hurt. I think the rates are fine for him. I think he's a decent play. And then down under 4K, BC's got 3 guys that are interesting, especially if you're playing the mini max or you've got a bunch of lineups in the 222 or something. Mason Madsen, Devin McLaughlin, and Chaz Kelly, I think, are all in play. I think I like Madsen the best. Each of these guys are going to play like low 20s minutes with solid rates. These are if Langford is out again. Do you have a favorite between those 3? And then what are your thoughts on Post?
Yeah, with Langford out, I could see Madsen being the favorite. Just he's like probably their next best 3-point shooter behind Post for a team extremely lacking in the perimeter shooting department. If Langford plays, then it probably goes to like McLaughlin because I think it really hurts like Madsen and Chaz Kelly. But I think that being said, I think Madsen and Kelly are both fine with Langford out. That's how I'd probably rank them: Madsen, Kelly, McLaughlin if Langford's out.
Yeah, and then thoughts on Quentin Post as a spend here. What do you think about the matchup?
Florida State is as soft as it gets inside. Like there's just no interior defense on this team. But I wonder if they even try to throw like Baba Miller on him. Might give a little bit more athleticism than he's seen. But yeah, I mean Quentin Post is a wagon. It's 50-point upside. He's had a couple of tepid-ish games last few with not reaching 30. In 4 of his last 5, but no, I think he's definitely got double upside, 20 and 10 type game with some blocks too. So probably going to be playing him in a fair amount, but I think he's going to be pretty heavily owned too. So in like a qualifier scenario, I could definitely see getting away from him because that is a pretty heavy price.
Yeah, and then on the Florida State side, I think a couple guys are in play. Mills and Green are always kind of reasonable plays at their prices. Their price tags haven't really changed all season. So those guys are fine. Baba Miller is the big news that we have here. If Matt Cleveland misses again, Miller should start, and played really well in his first start. He ended up playing 28 minutes. And at 4K, he's a 5-star recruit. I still kind of question his actual upside for an NBA player. But, as far as being at home against BC, starting for 4K with that talent, I think we're gonna have to give him a serious look here. What do you think about Miller? And then, are you interested in anyone else on Florida State?
Yeah, Miller's I think probably one of the best budgets of the slate for sure. If Cleveland's out, if Cleveland is in, kind of puts his minutes down more in the 18 to 23 range, I would imagine, which makes it a little bit more sketchy. But yeah, I mean, he's still, a high upside talent with good pedigree. he's going to be a fine play if Cleveland's out. It's in the first window, so we should get that news, pretty soon or relatively early. Outside of that, like, man, Caleb Mills, like, should be doing a lot more, but just hasn't really put a full, DFS game together in a while. Like he was at least in spots last year.
Yeah.
And then
I
Green
feel like
is
he's
kind of your,
fouling a lot.
yeah, a little bit too. I think he's running into some of that. I also think that Leonard Hamilton's kind of figuring out, like, the ball in Worley's hands. The ball just moves a little bit better on the offensive side if Worley's really controlling things rather than Mills. So I think he's taking the ball out of his hands a little bit. But yeah, Green's going to be your 3-point shooter. 17 3-point attempts versus Syracuse is just absurd in one game. But that's that's what he can do. And then, like, I mean, they just benched McLeod for most of the last game. They didn't even bother bringing him off with Baba playing well. So, like, Corrin, if you want to take a shot at Corrin in larger field, like, I think Corrin's all right, especially with everybody likely going to Baba. And if Corrin plays more minutes than Baba and has better stats, I wouldn't be that surprised, frankly. And he's going to be a fifth his own.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to another ACC game here. Notre Dame at UVA. Notre Dame 179 at Ken Palm, just really in the tank. Coach is leaving. Did you see the quote he had? He was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to go move to Florida for a year and just kind of hang out, and then we'll see what happens."
Yeah,
I think
he might be 68 for sure.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for the Georgetown job. Maybe he's got a bunch of DC ties. He was a head coach at Matha for a while, so keep an eye out for that. Virginia 17th. He's got this lined UVA 74-59. Overall thoughts on this game, Gav?
Yeah, a lot of money's come in on Notre Dame. I think UVA is down from like -16 to -12.5, but still a total going down from 132 to 129. So tough game DFS environment wise. That being said, I think part of the reason why the money has come in on Notre Dame is just, they got multiple guys who can shoot, over the top of the pack line. So I think they're much better equipped to face a Virginia team than, like, for instance, when we bet Boston College against Virginia at kind of a similar number, as a team reliant on getting to the rim, so they definitely have a path. They're going to get their 3-point attempts up. It's going to be a question of whether they make them. But that also being said, we talk about how bad the Notre Dame defense is. Defense is so bad. Like, does it make us look to them in a 129 game total environment? Like, I don't know. That it's not like two good defenses with Rutgers and Wisconsin, but yeah, I don't know. Pretty gross game DFS wise.
Yeah, I think I only mentioned Van Allen Lubin on the Notre Dame side. He's under 5K. I thought he looked good in their last game. Played 28 minutes. The rebound rate is there, so just toss him in the pool of the 4K guys. Like, I could see him beating the Illinois guards or Worley, guys like that. So I think that he's reasonable. And then on the Virginia side, Beekman, man, he's a frustrating guy to roster because especially when they're playing well and they're blowing teams out, sometimes he just chills, right? Like he's not that aggressive. He'll just play good defense and like let Armand Franklin chuck up a bunch of shots. So like him at 7-2, I have some concern with because I do think that they blow him out here. Any plays on either side for you? You've seen McNeely play 27 and 28 in 2 of their last 3 games. He's under 4K. I guess he's in play. Vanderplas is playing good minutes lately, and Notre Dame doesn't scare you inside. What do you think?
Yeah, as bad as the Notre Dame defense is, like, they do play pretty heavy ball denial and cut off the catch and shoot 3-point. So I'm less enthusiastic, I think, about McNeely. Can you get to, like, I think kind of similar thing with Vanderplas as well, right? If they're going to be a little bit tougher on the 3-point line in terms of just limiting the amount of shot attempts you're going to get, I think it just plays a little bit better to Franklin and Beekman. But yeah, I don't think anybody in this game is going to be in play for my main line. So just more comes down to what do you mix in? I kind of agree with, Ben Allen, Lubin. I wish he shot a little bit more threes for this spot, but it's probably Lubin, and then the guard rotation on Notre Dame has gotten kind of ugly. But if you want a Cormac Ryan at the 6.1K, I don't hate it. I get it. I just don't think there's a ton of ceiling involved with it. But has a decent floor, I think, for the spot. Other than that, I'm probably going to stay mostly away from this game.
Yeah. These are secondary plays. If you're doing a bunch of lineups. All right, we're about halfway done, and it's 9:30. Wow, we're on track. Just wanted to mention from here on out over at Run Pure, be doing playbooks and core plays for every main slate. Our Discord is super active, talking about the games throughout the day. I post all of the lineups and my reaction to news and stuff, which is super important. We've seen it just over the last few weeks. You get a late lineup like Florida State having Matt Cleveland out and Baba Miller starting. That helped. I think it was Dan Andros got a seat that night by playing Baba. So, if you want to sign up, use code Boynton15. It gets you 15% off your first month and includes SaberSim, our optimizer. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking with this sickness. Let's go on to the next game. Texas Tech at West Virginia. Texas Tech 61st, West Virginia 21st. West Virginia 77-69 on KenPom. We saw Bacho has been ruled out. I haven't seen anything on Pop Isaacs so far. What are your overall thoughts on this game? West Virginia with a pretty healthy team total here. I see 77-ish.
Yeah, Texas Tech's off the 2 straight home wins versus K-State and Texas. Now they head on the road where they're 2-3-1 ATS in the conference. Conversely, West Virginia off 2 straight road losses at Texas, at Baylor, so no shame in that. 3-3 ATS at home. Morgantown's generally a toughish place to play given kind of the travel, but yeah, Texas Tech getting some troops back definitely helps, at least in the form of IMAC. I think he covers up a lot of some of what they lose in Bacho. Bacho wasn't even really doing a ton for him. I don't know if he was ever fully healthy this year. Honestly, I just felt like he was always banged up with something or another. But yeah, I'll probably assume Isaacs is out until I hear otherwise. Just been out for almost a month, coming back from the ankle. Even if he is back, how much does he push it? I don't know. I think his minute outcome is 8 to 24 minutes, something like that. But yeah, they're going to get really heavy rotational with the guards. They're running a lot more 4-guard sets. So that's why you just see some of the minutes variance, spiking with the value guys. But yeah, West Virginia in kind of a potential slam spot. West Virginia won 76-61 in Lubbock, on a desperation spot for Tech. I think they were 0-7 at the time in conference. And West Virginia won 28 from 35 from the free throw line in Lubbock. Oh, God.
Wow.
They shot 35 free throw attempts on the road. So we'll see what happens. Both these teams foul the shit out of one another. But both are pretty inefficient. So game could be decent tempo-wise, but don't expect a bunch of shots going in.
Yeah, I think there are a couple interesting plays, especially on the West Virginia side here. Kedrian Johnson sitting at 5-1. His prices come down a bit. Assist rate is near 40% last couple games. Should see 30-plus minutes, I think. And then Joe Toussaint at 4-2 had a big game against Texas Tech last game. Comes off the bench. Should play low 20s minutes. I think he's viable at 4-2. Do you have any interest in those guys?
Yeah, I think Kedrian's the first place I look. I mean, in his last 2 home games, he went 33 and 26 fantasy points wise, 22 and 16 actual points wise. Went on the road to play at Texas and at Baylor. Actually had a decent game against Baylor. He's still 4X pretty much at Baylor. Probably similar-ish tempo, possession wise as they'll get in this game. And now he's back at home, and I'm not really afraid of the Texas Tech no middle. They just don't have the kind of long switchable athletes that they've had in years past. Adonis Arms and McCullough and guys like that. So I think Kedrian's first place I look. Then I probably go to Trey Mitchell as a lower owned spend. The minutes have come down. Last game it was from fouls. The one before was probably due to turnovers. But again, coming back home, I think is a pretty good bounce back spot when he's sub 7K in a decent paced game. So those are probably the only two guys I'll really play. I don't think I'll get to Toussaint. Like, had a good game last time against Tech, I think, but man, you almost need some of the other guards just to be fouling, like, for him to really reach his ceiling.
Yeah, I think Toussaint's going to come in decently owned here. I have no issue fading a guy who has to score to get you there, who's coming off the bench on a 12-game slate. So I'm fine with that too. Let's move on. Big game. Tennessee at Kentucky. Tennessee 4th at KenPom, Kentucky 40th. Kentucky went to Tennessee and won on the road earlier in conference play. I think they probably punched their ticket if they beat them again here to the tournament. KenPom's got it Tennessee 69-65. The line is 1.5 though. I took some Tennessee. I hate taking these short road favorites, but I just don't see Kentucky winning this game. Overall thoughts here, we've got a bunch of news. Game time calls on both Julian Phillips and Josiah Jordan-James on Tennessee's side. I think Sevier and Frederick are more on the doubtful side for Kentucky. What are your overall thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree generally with the injury kind of prospectus there, but yeah, man, it was crazy in the first game. Like, Kentucky absolutely punked Tennessee. Just they out rebounded them 43-20, 43-23, dude. In Knoxville, like, so part of me feels like not only Tennessee losing the first time, getting revenge, going into Rupp, but also the manner in which they lost. I think kind of alleviates some of that potential emotional letdown concern you could have from winning at Bama, even without JJJ and Julian Phillips. Like, if Phillips and JJJ play, I'll definitely bet Tennessee in this spot. Like, I get Kentucky, but I just think there's no way you have another flat spot like Tennessee. It just is going to come down to, obviously, Tennessee's got to make its jump shots, which is fucking terrifying, obviously, betting on them, but that is what it is.
Yeah, so I think there are several guys in play here. Let's talk Tennessee first. Big decision when they were on the slate earlier in the week was Tyreek Key or Meshack. Let's assume Phillips and JJJ are out, because if they're in, I'm probably not playing anyone here. Let's assume they're out. We saw Tyreek Key go what it felt like 2 for 50 from the field and burned a lot of people the other night. Meshack started and played pretty well. He played 27 minutes against Bama. What are your thoughts on those two guys? Their prices have come together a bit now. Meshack 3-4, Key down to 4K. My thoughts are I'd rather play Key, who's going to keep shooting, coming off a poor shooting performance. I don't think his role changes at all. I have some concern that Meshack played a bunch because he was guarding Brandon Miller and kind of goes back to 18 minutes or so, which if that happens, then you're probably drawing dead. What do you think there with those two guys?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely Key over Meshack. What are they going to use Meshack for to guard Toppin? Toppin doesn't scare you. Toppin hasn't hit a jump shot since Nam, which means now he'll go for 40. But yeah, Meshack, I'm pretty sure Meshack took all 4 of his shots in the first 7 to 8 minutes of the first half, missed all 4 of them, and was like, "Fuck this, I'm not shooting anymore." I'm pretty sure that happened because I was watching that, just being like, "Oh, Meshack shot. Oh, he shot an 8-foot floater, 3 feet short of the basket. That's unfortunate. Like, he's just a bad fucking shooter." At least Tyreek Key can be a good shooter in spots, so I'll definitely go to Key over Meshack for me personally, assuming Phillips and James are both out.
Yeah. So yeah, same. And then going back to the last game, it's like, would you rather play Tyreek Key or Joe Toussaint?
Yeah, Key if James and Phillips are out, neither if James and Phillips are in.
Yeah, that's what I meant. All right. Any thoughts on the Kentucky guys? Let's assume that both of the guards are out again. Are you going back to Antonio Reeves? I know that you played him the last 2 slates. I played him last Saturday. What what about him? And then Cason Wallace at 7-7. Oscar always in play, but a really, really tough matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Reeves got the 21 shots up against Georgia when Cason was in foul trouble. The 12 to 14 shots and multiple threes is more realistic. He's definitely going to have to hit them. Tennessee, with a pretty high defensive 3-point rate, they're going to make you shoot it over the top. So at home, I don't typically mind Reeves here. I think it's tougher defensively. I don't usually look to target Tennessee as a defense.
Yeah.
But I still think he's probably still pretty relatively safe for 3.5 to 4x in the kind of high teens fantasy points wise.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We got a couple games left. Florida at Arkansas. Big news here. Colin Castleton out for the year with a broken hand. Huge loss for Florida. They were, I wouldn't call them, a true bubble team, but, they had a chance to make the tournament sitting at 46 at KenPom. Arkansas 23rd, kind of ascending here as we head into March. I think Muss has figured out who he wants to play, which is good for us. KenPom's got Arkansas 72-66, but the line is out to 9 here. Overall thoughts on the game?
Yeah, obviously Castleton is massive, but Arkansas kind of in a buy low spot. They lose against Mississippi State, Chris Jan's pack line defense, and then they lose at Texas A&M, which isn't really a pack line, but it's much more of a compact defense that forces you to shoot from the outside, which Arkansas has definitely had troubles with. And now they play a Florida team. I think that's like 51% on close twos with Castleton and like 59% without or something like that. Pretty big on-offs, obviously, but yeah, Florida's off they actually waxed Ole Miss pretty good. Even without Castleton in the second half, they still kind of kept the foot down on the accelerator and beat them pretty good. So, Yeah, Arkansas on shot quality 1-6, ATS in their last 7 games. Now without Castleton, I think it's 4-3 ATS at home, but that's also a 1-6 per shot quality is what I'm saying. Arkansas is going to live at the rim, 29th highest rim frequency. They're 22nd on a points per possession basis in that. And again, without Castleton, everything just kind of lays out really well for Arkansas, just with that injury and the style that they play.
Yeah, so let's tie that into DFS. Talking about Florida first, without Castleton, Golden has said that they're going to give Chitobo the first crack at the 5. He's 3K flat, so he's going to start here.
Him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is his 8.6 fouls per 40. But man, I mean, he's free, and if he doesn't foul, he's probably going to play mid to high 20s minutes here, and you're going to need him. Even if he fouls and he fails and puts up like 12, I think you're still fine, right? I think what's interesting if you're playing multiple teams is playing like Alex Fudge over Chitobo. What do you think about that? Because I could see Florida going with a smaller lineup and playing Fudge at the 5, or just Fudge getting more minutes in general. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, on the road at Arkansas is pretty friggin' brutal, and he's 5K. I guess they would run a small lineup and maybe run some zone. Golden typically doesn't run a whole lot of zone, but that's been an antidote for Arkansas and their anemic perimeter shooting. The Nick Smith thing is kind of a little scary too, right? So it's on the Florida side, I don't know. It's just Chitobo. I think you almost have to damn near lock him just at that price. It sucks, but that's where we're at without Castleton.
Yeah, so Castleton got hurt 5 minutes into the second half. Chitobo played every minute after that. I'm looking at this. Fudge played 9 of the 15 minutes after that. Chitobo played 14 out of 15. So, I think it's Chitobo and pass. I think that these other guys are playable, like Jones or Reeves, but just tough for me to play them over some of the 4K guys that we've talked about on the road at Arkansas with a team total of like 65. Any thoughts on the Arkansas guys? I was hoping Black would come in at that 7K price that he's been for 3 weeks. But just like we talked about, all of these studs are, priced up 800 or so more than they have been recently. So we see Black there at 8K, but man, Muss is just not taking him off the court. 38 plus minutes in like 5 games in a row. There's some sticker shock with the price, but man, he has been playing well. So I like Black. Any thoughts on him, and then any other Arkansas guys in your pool here?
Yeah, I think Black's kind of like he's a little bit sexier Devo Davis, right? For 1.1K more, he's going to score a little better. He's going to put up a little bit better peripherals. They're both going to have like 36-minute floors, which is just insane. But yeah, I think it probably goes Black, then it goes Devo. Yeah, and then I usually don't gamble on these forwards with Muss, but and with Mekhi Mitchell, now priced up to 5.7, it's like God, that's almost for the 20 minutes that he's going to get, that's scary. So I think it's just either Black or Devo. But keep in mind, Florida's got some pretty excellent perimeter defenders in their own right.
Yeah.
So I think really where we want to attack them is on the inside.
Yep, same. We just got news come through. Sonogo is not out there warming up early. So it's still an hour and 20 until the game. So something to keep an eye on there. We talked about earlier. So if you missed us talking about UConn, just go ahead and rewind when we're done. Let's go next game. Highest total. Excuse me. Highest total on the slate. Wake at Miami. Wake 76 at KenPom. Miami 33rd. Kind of wild to see them at 33rd. Aren't they like 21-5? They are 21-5. I think they should be a little higher at 33rd. I guess the loss to Georgia Tech is like an anchor weighing them down.
Woof.
Yeah, right. KenPom's got this Miami 85-77. So definitely a spot that we have to look at here. What are your overall game thoughts, Gav?
Yeah, the old lotion game. Wake's got 3 straight wins, but they're against the 3 worst teams in the conference in Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Road North Carolina. They haven't played – Wake Forest has not played one game under 140 since December 17th, okay? So basically after this game, in terms of total-wise, we have another kind of tier of games that are low to mid-140s, and if you figure – an over-under is generally a 50-50 proposition of whether a game goes over or under that total. You're basically saying, like, Wake Forest hasn't played in a game under 140, and these games are going to be, trekking towards 140s, on a 50-50 basis. So just incredible floors with those games. Like, Wake is a terrible individual ISO defending team, but, they just kind of rely on packing in their defense and hoping you don't just completely burn them from the outside. But Miami has, plenty of requisite shooting from the outside, whether it be, Wong Pack, Miller's coming, along as a much more effective shooter this year that you do have to pay attention to. So, yeah, it's kind of like both teams don't stop what the other team does well. So yeah, this could be a pretty heavy game. I think you're playing, multiple pieces from this game. They're all, pretty attainable price wise. So yeah, you definitely got to be ready to play a couple of these guys in the final window too. Move.
Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in that 2 p.m. Eastern window, which is good. It gives you some swap equity. I think that you're playing at least one of the Miami studs, Amir, Wong, or Miller. Miller, my favorite out of the 3, but also probably going to be highest owned. So I have no issue going to Wong or Amir over Miller, or just playing 2 of them. And then on the other side, why don't you talk about the Wake pieces? We've seen Appleby just play the entire game for like a month straight. His price is up to 9.6, so a bit of sticker shock there. But we've seen him have, big time ceiling games. I think he had a 60-something a couple games ago. So the ceiling is there. The team total, even though they're a big dog, is still almost 80. So thoughts on Appleby, and then can you go to like a bounce back game from Hildreth? It kind of feels to me like he's hitting a wall. Just haven't seen that ceiling from him in a while, or like a Clintman at 4-3. What do you think about the Wake side?
Yeah, it's like, if Appleby gets 28 free throw attempts, like I bet he can get pretty close to 60, like he did in that game. The price is just crazy, but yeah, like you said, I mean, Wake Forest is like 6 points higher than the next closest road team on the entire slate, team total wise. So yeah, it's like I don't know what's going on with Hildreth. So the shots are just evaporating. I think Appleby is just controlling the ball so much on the offensive end. Like they don't even have a person listed under him under the point guard spot on Ken Palm. It's just like he's the only point guard listed that's played the last 5 games. So it's insane.
Yeah, he's played all 40 in 2 of the last 3, I think. So
yeah, it's like the Sean Padula treatment. I think I'm a little bit more high on Pack here, but I do agree. I think that you probably start with one of the 3 studs. Like, Wake, like I said, is going to pack it in on defense and make it difficult for Omer. But the same token, Wake also allows, an atrocious offensive rebounding percentage to opponents. So, Omer should cruise to a double-double. How big will the double-double be?
Mm-hmm.
That's what remains to be seen. He's almost 9K, but, awesome game. So I think, definitely in play. I just have a hunch that this is going to be the Isaiah Wong nuke job. There's something in the back of my head just tells me that. Like, this is the one where he's going to go for like 28 or 30 points, actual points, and just go crazy.
I mean, that'd be cool to see. I've played some Wong this year, and I haven't gotten that yet. So he did show a bunch of that early in the season, like early December. He had a couple 50-point outbursts. I like the Nigel Pack call. I mean, with a team total of 86, this is a type of game where Pack can really pop off. Any thoughts on like the ancillary guys like a Wooga Poplar or Klintman or anything like that?
Yeah, like Wooga and Klintman, I think are fine as game stack pieces. I don't think I'm going to play them as the only piece from their team. Like, Poplar is going to be the only Miami guy in my lineup. If I'm playing Poplar, it's going to be in addition to like probably 2 other guys in this game, right? I'm probably going to play like like an Appleby, Miller, Klintman, or with Wooga or something like that. It's going to basically be because I played 2 of the studs and I need to kind of average down the cost of that game. So I think that's where I'm at with Wooga and Klintman.
All right, let's move on. We have 3 games left, all Big 12 tilts. Oklahoma at Texas is first. Oklahoma 54th at Ken Palm, Texas 9th. He's got a Texas 77-67, so pretty healthy team total there. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, total's moving down like 3 points. I took the under, but I've been total AIDS betting last 7 days, so take that with a grain of salt. OU's off a 14-point win versus K-State. Like, they hadn't won a conference game since January 14th before that, so pretty much hadn't won in a month. They did have the Bama win in between there, but they only lost by 1 versus UT earlier this year, but it was also on like New Year's Eve. It was kind of just a weird spot for Texas. Texas was still relatively fresh off the Chris Beard thing. Yeah, but UT's off the loss at Texas Tech, right? 6-point analytical shot quality win for them, so just didn't quite hit the shots that they usually do. But the OU defense is kind of all about forcing ISOs and mid range, kind of via their switch heavy drop. Like, and Texas has some guys that will play in the mid range. Like Marcus Carr will be perfectly happy pulling up from 20 feet away 6 times each half. Like, Oklahoma kind of sets up well to guard Texas, especially with the way they limit transition as well on a frequency basis. So I kind of think the game is a little bit uglier than the total indicates. But still got some guys in play DFS wise.
Yeah, so let's go to the DFS side. I think there are a couple guys in the 4K range that we can talk about. Tyrese Hunter, price is just plummeting, playing 25 to 30 minutes, but the usage is just really gone away from him there. He was 6K 2 weeks ago. We weren't playing him at 6K, but now that he's 4-3, I think that you can start to consider Hunter in a home spot with a decent team total. thoughts on him? And then on the Oklahoma side, the two guards, Otega Owe and Uzan, both playing, mid to high 20s minutes. I prefer Owe, I think, just because his usage is higher. I think Uzan was getting a bit lucky with the peripherals when he was first coming on. What are your thoughts on those three cheap guys?
Yeah, I think I used Uzan the last time they were on a slate. I kind of prefer him to Owe a little bit, honestly. He has run into 2 foul games pretty badly the last 2. In addition to having his season worst or season high in turnovers 2 games ago against Kansas, but I think he's pretty clearly the better perimeter shooter. And with the Texas no middle, you're definitely going to need to be shooting over the top of them versus an OU team plays at the line of the screen. So they are going to limit catch and shoot 3-point opportunities at a much higher rate. So Tyrese Hunter's dude, he's the opposite of Andre Jackson, right? Jackson literally can't shoot, but gets every peripheral or every other peripheral. And Hunter just cannot get peripherals, but he's going to get a couple points scoring wise.
Yeah,
he's probably a little bit better cash play, I think, than tournament, just because I just worry about the ceiling short of him, having just a nuclear, the home Gonzaga game, all those games ago when he had 29 actual points or whatever it was. So yeah, I think from this game, I'm mostly looking at the Uzan Owe combo.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides of the OU guard argument, but I think that you can play either and be fine. There's just a lot of guys right around that price tag that we talked about. We have those two guys. We just talked about Hunter. You got Wooga Poplar, who we talked about. Tyreek Key, Toussaint.
The Illinois guys.
So just a bunch of guys in play there. Any last thoughts on this game before we move on? Any interest in the spends, like a Carr or a Sherfield? I know you have a soft spot for Sherfield. So
yeah, I don't know about this spot. I don't think I'm going to have much, especially right after, what was it, Texas' last home game? They just blew the friggin' doors off West Virginia. Are they going to go that crazy hot again? I don't think so. I think this is going to be a much lower scoring, relatively close competitive game, I think, more so than the line indicates.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got 2 games left. Oklahoma State at TCU. KenPom's got a TCU 70-66. Both teams in the top 30 in his rankings. Without Avery Anderson, we've seen Bryce Thompson and John Michael Wright play a ton of minutes. John Michael Wright sitting at 5'3". I think he's playable. 38 and 36 minutes last 2 games. Not the best spot, obviously, on the road against TCU, who's getting Mike Miles back here. I think that pretty much muddles the entire TCU team. Probably see him play, 25 minutes, something like that, 25, 28. Yeah. And since he's been gone, these other guys have been playing well. Damian Baugh is priced up. So, the TCU guys are priced right now as if Mike Miles is not playing. But, the team usage leader comes back, and usually you have to wait a couple games before you can hop back on. I think the only guy for me on the TCU side is probably Lampkin. He's right there, 4.2, that same price range. So getting the plays at that price range is going to be so key today. We saw him come back and play 22 minutes. I think was that the game where he was ruled out? He ruled out before the game and then played 22 minutes.
And we're like, what the fuck? That's Lampkin in the game. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I could see him start here. I think that was Wednesday, so he's had a couple days. So I think Lampkin's interesting. If he starts here, could be a guy that you swap to if you're down and you've got that 4-2 spot. I don't think people will go to him, and we've seen pretty good upside for him. He's usually a 5.5, 6K type player. So any thoughts on him? And then any plays on the Oklahoma State side? John Michael Wright or a Cisse or something like that.
Yeah, it's Lampkin just keeps just hobbling through these friggin' ankle injuries, dude. He's clearly not 100% when you watch him. he's actually somehow gotten more stapled to the floor after this ankle injury. He jumps even lower, and he moves even worse somehow. But I get it as a pivot. It's actually kind of interesting 4-2. But other than that, man, I'm probably out. I think even like getting Miles back when Oak State is down Avery Anderson, their best point of attack defender, like is just huge for TCU, not only efficiency wise but pace wise. Like they push the ball much more with Baugh and Miles in the lineup. And Oak State's actually the best half court defense on a point per possession basis in the conference with all those good defenses. So TCU is going to have to force transition. Maybe Miles for like, you want to toss in some degenerate mini max like entries, like sure, why not? But other than that, I think I'll probably steer away from these guys because, like you said, their prices if Miles is out.
Yeah. All right. Last game on the slate: Iowa State at K-State. K-State going through a little bit of a lull here. I think they've lost, what is it, like 5 of 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Iowa State 15th at KenPom, K-State 26th. KenPom's got this K-State 68-66, so a lower total than a lot of the games that we've seen on this slate. I think this is a really good spot for K-State. The lines move out to like 3.5. I was hoping to get that 2. So I'll probably just bet it live, but I will be on the Kansas State side. What do you think overall?
Yeah, a little bit uglier game environment, obviously, right? Like Iowa State's going to be one of the slower teams in the conference, but definitely get right-ish spot for K-State. I mean, they're 5-1 ATS at home in conference play for Kansas State versus 3-4 on the road, and Iowa State's kind of similar, right? Like they're super tough at aim, so it helps push up a lot of their projections and computer numbers. But they're only 3-3 on the road ATS, so I think it is still a pretty good spot here for K-State. In guessing game time decision, right? With illness too, so like God forbid I say it would bring Iola into the equation if he's hurt, like as a 3.3K punt. But K-State's got a pretty good offensive scheme to really work against kind of the overloaded, ball screen icing, trap heavy, high aggressive defense of Iowa State. So yeah, not a game that I'm going to be like, wow, I have to get a guy, from this game. But we could see some, the injury news could pop up, and I think there could be some lower owned spots that may get us there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to anyone from this game. I do like what I've seen from Lipsy on Iowa State. Just always priced in that low 6K range. The peripherals have been really good. I don't think that he kills you here. Any interest in like a Jazz Kuntz? We saw him start last game and hit a bunch of threes. I think he's a bit chasey at 6K. Any interest there before we wrap up the show?
No, I played him, on the last slate because TCU is a team that is so much tougher at the rim defensively that they were going to need some of the stretch shooting from him. But that is what he provides Iowa State, basically a stretch 4. So yeah, I think you're right in terms of a little chasey because almost 6K now in a rough game environment on the road versus a team that's much tougher at home. I'll probably pass.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with a couple last thoughts. Seeing some people in the chat say that Sonogo's now warming up, so keep an eye on that. Who knows what the deal is there? We talked about how we're dealing with UConn earlier, so you can go ahead and rewind and see what we think. I think the theme of this slate, Gavin, is overpriced studs, right? You're going to have to use your salary, so even if there's some sticker shock on some guys, who are a bit pricier than they normally are, I think it's fine, especially like an Appleby, and just in such a great game. So don't get sticker shock on the studs. There's enough value that you can play 3+ of them. So I think that's my main takeaway. Do you have any like slate themes or anything that stood out to you overall in general?
Not really. Just I would I would try not to play, all the low to mid 4K guys. Try to take a stand on some of them. Unless you have like a really dedicated 4 or 5, person spend up core and you just want to mix and match all those guys, I guess. But, try to take some stands on these cheaper guys because I think as ugly as it is, TJD is going to be heavily owned. The Illinois, side is going to be heavily owned. The Miami weight game is going to be heavily owned. So it could really come down to like which budgets really hit for you.
Yeah, for such a big slate, there aren't a shitload of guys like who are great plays.
This feels like it could be another one of those slates where it's a really close margin from first to not cashing.
Yeah, we've seen some slates like in the 222 where you're 10 points off of the winner and you're not cashing. So I could see that here. And then with the projections today being so tight, if you have conviction on a guy, just play him. Any last thoughts here? We usually do like a favorite spend and favorite cheap guy, but we went over a bit. So if you want those plays, we'll put those in the Run Pure Discord.
What a tease! This guy's a professional.
Also, I want to get off stream, so I've been talking longer now than I have since like Tuesday morning. I've been in bed and on that couch since Tuesday. So this is the longest I've like sat up in a couple of days.
Jesus.
But yeah, soldiered through it. I think we got our most viewers so far this year. So thanks to everyone for stopping by. Thanks to Gav for hanging out as usual. We'll be back next Saturday for another show. I think tonight there's like a NASCAR show. I think it's at 8 o'clock. So check that out if you're playing NASCAR. And we will see you next